let's switch back to VB. And what we have to deal now with are the price and trade-in value checking. We did these in leave events and of course corresponding two text boxes. You can see that if you scroll all the way to the top and review your TXT price leave event and TXT trade-in leave event. We are going to try to do it with a single function instead. This function will accept the text box object as a parameter and return true or false if the value entered in the text box is valid. This may be a little bit advanced for where we are in our programming quest, but we'll do it nevertheless. First, remove both leave events together with all of its code. This is the TXT trade-in leave, and this is the TXT price leave event. So both of these babies. Don't worry, the same functionality is in the function check num.txt text file right here in the Solution Explorer. Double click on it, Control Alt to select it, copy it, go back to the code, and go all the way to the bottom so we don't screw this up. Right after the end sub and before the end class, and paste it. Okay, let's read through the code so you can see that it more or less does the same thing that the leave events did before. It is a little bit more complicated than before because it's sort of trying to do two things at the same time. But I think we can sort of plow through it. The function check number starts by accepting txt box as text box object and returns the Boolean data type. That is the true or false whether the number checks out or it doesn't. Now, this is clearly not number, string, or date variables we are used to dealing with. But as you can imagine, controls such as text boxes can be attached to variables just like the numbers, text, and dates can. Then, based on the name property text box, right here, name property of the text box, we find which of the two text boxes, TXT price or trade-in, are we dealing with, and save the beginning of the message boxes in an MSG text variable accordingly. Then, we proceed with our standard tests, starting with the finding whether TXT box, now remember this can be either TXT price or TXT trade-in box, so we test whether it's a number. Okay, and if it is, we first find out if it's a negative number. We know we can convert it into double because it's a number, but it's still, we don't want it to be negative. If it is, we display an appropriate message. Notice the use of a message text, and we focus on that particular text box, clear it, and return false, as in check number failed. In the case number is positive, right here in this else, then we have to worry about whether the trade-in is being less than the selling price or not, and this is sort of the most complicated part of the code. First, we have to test if we are dealing with a trade-in text box to begin with. If we are, then if the TXT price text box is not blank, we can compare the two, and we know there are numbers at this point, and we can use CDouble conversion function. So if the TXT price text box that has a number is smaller than the current TXT box, which we know is the TXT trade-in, then we know that the trade-in value is less than the sales price. It's greater than the sales price, and we display a message that that cannot be the case. And please try again, refocus with the trade-in, and return false, as in the whole thing failed. Otherwise, and this is a tricky one, otherwise, this else belongs to this if here. Otherwise, this means that the TXT price is greater than a TXT trade-in. In other words, price is greater than the trade-in value, and we return true. Everything is legit. Else, this else corresponds to the TXT price being not empty. If it's not empty, then it means it is empty. All right, and that's not going to work. We must enter the selling price before we can do the trade-in comparison. So we go back to return focus to TXT price and fail the whole thing. All right, and this end if here ends the special treatment of the TXT trade-in with respect to TXT price. Now, if this was only it, but it isn't. This else here has to do with this if that determined whether a text box is a trade-in or not. If it's not, it must be a TXT price because there's only two possibilities, okay? And since this whole big else here is the one relating to the positive number, this just means this is a legit positive selling price, so we return true. Finally, the last else of the first if, okay, of the very first if on is numeric, okay, means that either price or the trading value was not a number. It was either blank or it was some random text or something else, and then return the appropriate message, return the focus and fail the whole thing, and refocus and retry again. So this is the long and short of the somewhat complicated check number function. So let's go back to the top into the input data. Start with the top of the input data, and let's remove everything except for the assignment of TXT price text box to the price variable, because we know at this point if we got to the input data, if we call the input data procedure, we have a legit price. We have a legit price. Okay, so comment, we know, come on, we know we have a legit price. The same goes for the TXT trade-in. Scroll down, find it. All right, let's remove everything except the trade-in. Didn't tell us since it's again too good for its own good. And then type something that we know we have legit trade-in as well. Okay, and save all those changes. Now, let's go back to the main event procedure, and before we can use the, or rather call the input data sub, we have to check, we have to use that check number function on both the TXT price text box and the TXT trading text box. Let's start with the first one and type the following code. Okay, so check if price is valid, if check, if not, check price, check number, TXT price text box. Okay, if not of that is true, in other words, if the check number fails, the not of the fail is a true, in which case we do not have a legit price and we have to exit the sub, and we'll get an appropriate message as to what is it that we screwed up. Next, we check if trade-in is legit. Now, for this guy, we first have to check if CHK trade-in checkbox is checked. If that's the case, then we can check if the check number procedure on TXT trade-in returns false or true, true or false. If it's false, the not is true, so we have to exit the sub, just like we did up with a price, because the TXT trading is not legit for whatever reason, including the fact that it could have been entered as larger than price. Otherwise, the check trade-in checkbox was not checked, so there is no need to check the number because there isn't any, and the trade-in variable is simply assigned value of 0 as we sort of did before.